This is Rachel. She was supposed to be here. No, I told her. I was saying she's supposed to be here with the digital camera, but you can also do it.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. Most of you probably know that HBMC was established in 1982, and since then we've had a lot of ups and downs. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Khadro-La, and I'm the current of HBMC. Now, finally, HBMC is here in Paligarh, and just to be with this very different stress that HBMC's home is in the Paligarh. So in 2 minutes, it's started to define this will be the home. So he has graciously hosted HBMC, and I believe that this is our permanent home. So we welcome. So we welcome Rangjung, Arizona, Khandrola to Himalayan Buddhist Meditation Center. Khandrola is originally from Tibet and now lives between Nepal and India. She was recognized by His Holiness the Dalai Lama as the state medium of the Tenma Oracle. As well as her duties as a state oracle, she also travels worldwide teaching Dharma. So we are honored to have her here today amongst us in HVMC. Thank you very much, Khandrola.
Khandrola Church in Naya, the painted Kalabshan. Khandrola Hanani to your mother. Yes.
That's the one. And someone not to
everybody here and across the Zoom.
Zoom on picture in no one is there. On Sunday, and Zoom, you need someone. Someone to
I would also like to offer my touch today to the many people who are watching me across the Zoom.
I really Lama Zopa Rinpoche choosing in charting Koti Nandu. I mean, Narana, and name of Nakio Sabanama, usual.
So today at Lama Zopa Rinpoche's center here in Kathmandu, I have been requested to come and answer some questions. So whatever questions you have, you please feel free to ask them, and from the deepest purity, sincerity, I will answer the best I can.
So
you may begin your questions. I'll just start with whatever I have here. So my father just passed away on February 5th. What can I do to remove any obstructions for the passage of his soul? Frankie Palachi, Chile, Nive Taringala, Comososus, and Frankie Maumbe, Purchase Sayachidu, Paladi Chidu Harchana Yarenos.
So that in Khandrola, So Tina Sembian Samanada, giving in the data, she was in the vehicle, Professor Savado, that's how much and Sembian Monche, with some other go. Kambojigo, and Royal Roya, and in dinner, a pen the mark my day, so Missina, Susugi, Gosugi, and Chala Dene, and Jembe, Jela, and pen Chavachiana, and Susugi, sent dead and Chima Partokala, Pimpajitan, and Gosugi. 아니 자와데 미게베 자와를 찌데가이나 아니 지다 독데베지 렌젤로는 디스인다 지당게다 용스도 만다는 데들이 다 이나는 소소 땡진데가 저에게 라나면지 고지 브레더리 주도 배송당 아니 장리 만져베 다 잡을인데라 과자 친구쇼 중앙 송당 안데를 편한 데서 계절 감도 소소 미세는가 지면 지야디 아니 바보인다 아니 저런데 들어 핑토인데 아니 랑게 아니 차 준비 라야지야 하자다 소소기 미친 하면데 지면 지야디 아니 핑토인데 아니 초순이나야 소와데야 당 아니 그림샤데 라소마다 딘데기 땡제이만 자진 못 주야노 아니 그래서 제 근데 sembalang yukung yang buzikin. Ani semjan sama rangi pajibu mai ba semjan sama chele di semjan sama donge mande ba dewa ni sure de ta donge gi go rangi 제가 나지 당지 머리 바에 제용이 ni 중간 제가 나지 동대와 성장 한테 참말로 아니지 다 다르도 탐지지는 한번 들어야 아니 조금이야 문제야 제가서야 So you
know, once we are born, you know, death, experiencing death is inevitable. So that is our reality. So in that context, then, you know, there really isn't much of a point to be, you know, to be too worried about it as such, because, you know, that whoever is born eventually has to die. That is our reality. But in the context of having to benefit, then whatever altruistic aspirations that we generate, wishing to benefit others, and in the scope of these altruistic aspirations to benefit others, whatever activities we may engage in order to benefit. Not just once, you know, father and mother, but you know, as well as all the other sentient beings, you know, in order to benefit them in terms of this lifetime, in terms of the pardo, in the intermediate life, in terms of the future lifetimes as well. In order to benefit them, then the best way to benefit is through our altruistic aspirations by engaging in these virtuous activities, engaging our activities of body, speech, and mind. If you know, if it has a, you know, if it has accrued virtue, then it is something to dedicate for the benefit of others. And if it has incurred, you know, non-virtuous karma, and because karma is sort of definite or irreversible, because everything is a dependent arising, and dependent arising is something quite infallible. So in terms of like that, then you know, undertaking these activities of dedication, not just for our own father and mother, but for the world in general, for the, you know, particularly now in this time and age when you know, there has been so much travesty, you know, so much travesty has happened. So in terms of like that, then you know, we should also, in wanting to benefit, seek to benefit, you know, humanity in general. And so in doing that, then you know, starting with one's altruistic aspirations, then engaging one's body, speech, mind in the virtuous activities as prostrations, making offerings, making fervent prayers of request to the great Guru deities like that. So in these kinds of engaging in these kind of activities, as well as conducting pujas or prayer rituals for the benefit of those who have passed away, not only one's parents, but for all sentient beings in general who have passed away like that. So because the reality is that as sentient beings, there's nobody, who does not, there's nobody who does not want happiness. Everyone wants happiness, and nobody wants suffering. So and while we are all under the control of our ego grasping ignorance, so we are subject to we are subject to these kind of suffering conditions. So in order to enable the attainment of liberation, enlightenment, in order to make these kind of connections, then we start with generating these altruistic aspirations, and based on that, then engaging in the activities that enable liberation, enlightenment, dedicating not just for the ones who are deceased in our own life, but for humanity in general, for sentient beings in general. So, could you please speak about the power of prayer? Everyone prays for peace, peace from war, COVID, pandemic to stop. Could you explain us? That's the first question. Person zombie na molom jeni mangu shivchores pena the water shive cheto motu moyo cheto tan the COVID ki na so in the Mary child in the molom jeni shivchores and the molom ge topsia kandech nas molom ge topsia
Really, and there's a ever share the big kitchen moreno. Jidang man Jeb Tiangi, Semakura, Jidang Gersenzi, Zanguzi, Tamalan J, Tashiwa, Khandrola, Ninji, Gersemi, Lozi, Nani, living for us. Inayanda was to pay me the melon, Jeb like the Wosugi, Suzuki, Chawa, Perezina, me Ubojila, Denis Suzuki, Katsoroji. Jala today in Jala day, Jusha, this was Tangores. Jusha Masangaje, any Karo Java Zamji, or paint as should I Galipon. Madame Lady, why get a reading, watch him, Chiala, what you and then Suzuki, Chanju Sim, Tezimba. And it here young, and it Shirabi Tezimba. Semjan Tamji, Dungenzo di Nikabimba. 아니 동네 줘야 돼 출마임마 아니 동네 줘야 돼 매번 지야지 탑 용서 줘봐 동네 코는 중국이 띵중이 비니 중간에 아니 그 주동 몸을 이주지 하고 비토니 네 무슨 뭐는 카이 깨지디 셈기 나네 참바데 제비 로슈 차고 유명하다 제제 나네 아직 뭐는 제바지 물어와 아니 진 제바지 잡수 줘야 and Tilly to let in and Suzuki Mamajaya. And this was Lama Yetam, that Jembe Lama Meva, Tap Chebachi, Shirap Chebachi, Tindeji, Ninja Lama Mevaji, and Chachuji, Zachamo, Tizula, Ichida, Malamda, Tebada, Mubu, the Dragi, Top Chene, and Pa Malamja of the Chuana, and that Khandrola, Chavazangotan. Dus a dinjo jigo des pentoada. Jena ma kabdo matuaina rangla, tachi semza was a ranginji, semati, des chip yundiri. Zaregi, Malamzoedi, Dugas Kiramare. Eji Reva, Juyada, Malamdrum, and a Jabrosi, Garosis, Layaji, she's at the bay, Jishi Jabona, Pegalaka. Any, Maso. 동네 줘야 다 대화 줘야지 아니 주미 제메니 무베요 말이 주든 겐드니 무베요 말이 대송자 안에 수수기 시럽 배주의 땅에 자와지야 시럽 배주의 땅에 용수 조과 시럽 배주의 땅은 강의 용수 조과 셀두야지로 시럽 가족이 짜침무지 안에 배주의 땅에 있는 아니 강에 나야 디지 상만라 동에 나야다 용수 조과데 띵중민이 주지 인장 시럽 가지 배주의 땅한테 저기 띵중민이나 뚜뚜비니 주반데 말이에요 디니 동에 숙청부 가지 여와 있는 거 지 뜻서 띵주 인간이 여와 인장 아니 템버트가다 랑진 주가 매와 인장이 코뜨가 인장 템바 인장 아니 거탑 매와 지야지 탑 나서서 여들어 그런 랑진 동에 줘야 같이 쳐보디 안지 띵중 많이 봐지 동에 줘야 신한 저지 딱 봐봐라지 있나 한가지 치트에 여머와 동에 양녀 있는다 동에 중국 있는다 참 띵중 태용수 저거 동에 줘야 돼 랑기 센터네 짐바지 니지문 짐바디 찡 착배 뭐다 젬배 뭐를 찡으리 지나라 아니 강에 나서와지 차대와지 차방기 로이 니지도 정말로와 그 물람 제가 점이 저비가 싸와니님들 물람디 그거 침몰해도 되나요 지금 가서 차방기 로기 강에 영어 성장 아니 친내 진지대 낭주지 셈지 소소이 작업 편지 안 소소이 미리 편지 소소 침장 아니 지나 강이 나서고 여바디 셈마디 위젠 용대 거래 내 인자는 셈마디가 라야데 셈 출바지 표시당 시럽지나 시럽 출바디 표시당 탑투 의인이 주지 아니 차지 마통이 돈에 내가 저 강인지 제대로래 짐바당 짐발라야디 의인이 주지 마통네 아니 짐바 짐뱅아니 짐바데 짐뱅아니 뭐 찍라 아니 차당이 로이카네 같이 짜치보다 같이 지장보이나 컨주르랑이 동네비랑이 할 소소 고호라 내디하데 아니 소소 가져오다 당진 마리파라야 주라 마리파라야 용대와 인장 물론이 세트에 가보시라래 onda es malo
So the prayer is the prayer is something which arises out of a virtuous state of mind. Prayer is, which consists of words that are auspicious to accomplish purposes. But in order to undertake these kind of activities of prayers, then it has to be accompanied with some sort of virtuous activity. Like, for example, say we want to give something to a destitute, to someone very poor, we want to give, then we give something in charity. In order to engage in that act of charity, then you need to have something that you can give. In the same way, prayer is a form of a dedication. So in order to engage in that prayer, then it has to be accompanied with some virtuous activities, such as prayers that are rooted in our thoughts of bodhicitta, renouncing, self-cherishing others, and in the wisdom, and with these kind of, it has to be sustained by these kind of thoughts of bodhicitta and wisdom, these kind of prayers, in order to enable these kind of prayers. In the case when we talk about the experiences of suffering, these sufferings arise out of our misconstrued, mistaken states of mind. Because whatever sufferings that we encounter, it's not be it suffering or be it happiness, it's not something that arises without causes and conditions. Everything that happens in terms of happiness and suffering, it all comes because of causes and conditions, because that is dependent arising. That is the reality of dependent arising. So in order to have that understanding of that kind of prayer, then engagement of that prayer, then our mind has to give rise to the innate sense of loving kindness, compassion, that prayers that are empowered, infused or imbued with these kind of loving kindness, great compassion, and then the prayers being directed towards a powerful field of merit, powerful field of merit, the request to the gurus, meditational deities. And so it is these combination of activities that enables us to have able to benefit, so there is that entire engagement of the method and the wisdom in order to accomplish this kind of benefit. Is because whatever suffering there is, whatever experience something, these are not permanent, and because if it was permanent, then one couldn't effect any kind of changes to it. But because it's not permanent, so because it's not permanent, it's not permanent because they arises out of causes and conditions such as that of our mind of grasping, attachment, clinging, these kind of minds of obsession, aggression, ignorance, that gives rise to that gives rise to all these kind of sufferings, and through these mistakes, then the result sufferings occur. So although prayer is a necessity, but prayer alone is not sufficient to rid of this, to get rid of the suffering. For that, then one has to empower, engage the wisdom, because whatever sufferings arise, they arise out of our disturbed, unsubdued mental states, through these mistaken states. So, and in order to get rid of them, then wisdom has to be collected, it has to be enhanced, or it has to be engaged. And for that, one needs to have the understanding of understand what is the grasping mode of our existence, how we grasp at things, how we cling on to these things, and how these mental states then bring forth the suffering nature of existence. This kind of is a suffering nature of existence. When we do engage in prayer, then we do so with faith and devotion, and with the accompanied virtuous activities. I think I mixed up a little bit, but check my pieces of papers. It has to be, and then directed again. Prayer is an expression of our hope, and then seeking refuge, seeking protection. So in explaining suffering, then be it suffering or be it happiness, then realizing that it doesn't arise without causes and conditions, that whatever the suffering, whatever the happiness, that they all arise out of our mind of grasping and clinging. And in order to get rid of this, then basically, generating the wisdom, realizing dependent arising, that everything arises through dependence, and that that our mode of grasping at true existence, our mode of grasping at existence by way of its own nature, then this can be extinguished. Which is the cause of suffering. That it can be extinguished by generating the wisdom, realizing dependent rising.
That's all. 이제
So the next question, could Khandrola please give advice on how to please the Guru the most? Lama never chiala kharichana yakshores.
that's 다 지단계 this is shukawa. Lama dom.
It's difficult to say this.
지단계다. 소소 두바냥레지 라메지 왕농 내가 마송 디법방당 개와주당 송연주지 아니 영화 유승기 나는 미개버티지 빵당 주당디 마빵 주네 냥레지야디 약슈리 담지 모시 아니 랑진진방 아니 담미도 비시르 이니스는 진진진 제 자주기 쓴 돈이 나와야 아니 강도도 다 좋은 주비 아니 저분들이 너무 약실이 아니 상징이 양 그래서 너무 지하진데 여리 자비 라마 심전 탐지 산제지 말을 뭐지 나는지 내가 타도 너무도 말을 뭐지 아니 지금 라마 진짜 자템고 이 라마 이나네 Zangzang shirashira tamamen marwa. Then how did you manage?
So the best way is through the offering of one's practice. Particularly after having received initiations or transmissions, instructions, and then are engaging in the practice through abandoning what is non-virtuous and cultivating what is virtue, ensuring that our body, speech, and mind is sustained in virtue and is free of, is completely free of non-virtue. So, and then generating the real recognition of the ignorance grasping at true existence, ensuring that one abandons the self-cherishing mind, that one is able to generate the wisdom realizing selflessness. So generating the mind that cherishes others, generating the wisdom realizing, and these are the best types of offerings, the offering of one's practice. And then, of course, then you have material offerings. So since one's guru has as its objective the goal to enlighten all sentient beings, to ensure that both temporarily and ultimately, then for such gurus, then the material benefit, material offering shouldn't be of major interest.
Tadi tisan jurum mishuta jingona ji lameji lalubji barlada ji uni paju yagozi yawa setwede kesi momento tindo ji lama mebeji lama ji yana katsorda ji jiden chujimyo ani semje jab gun tinde zachempo jigi 안지 라마이나 지송 까지 쭉 라디가네 그래서 다른 탐지시는 공간 만나러 이런 거 라마라야 뭐지 단탄이 되스라이나 자르 농어저라 차르고 있는데 근데 지된 주제 있는 상징기에 아지 아토리다지 진리기 제대니 되나 그래서 Zabzab Machivaina, Lalu Samalodini, the Kai Chushi, young, Jewity young, she took to be Ninga Euro, his own Jidangi Lamana, so Jitachi, Tempata, Tanam, Tamzik, so had the loan, Digi Chuba,
So, but in this current day and age, then what one needs to have a clear distinction of what a guru and disciple is. You can have gurus who are, who needs to be free of the 8 worldly concerns. If a guru is completely free of the 8 worldly concerns, then is a refuge, is a protector, and is someone from whom you can partake of their instructions, whatever the instructions they might be, for one to fulfill it, and thereby enabling one to attain liberation and enlightenment. But of course, in this day and age, the title of the guru is easily applied to just about anybody, and so when individuals are focused on the 8 worldly concerns, then the guru-disciple relationship has to be undertaken very cautiously, in the sense that what is being engaged in is in the Dharma. And so, although the talk may be about the Dharma, then the result can be anything otherwise. But in relation to the guru, then the most important is having the faith, the devotion, and keeping one's smile or pledges with the guru purely. How can we rid ourselves of our defilements and end this samsaric cycle of birth and death?
니몬조에 빵야라 니몬 모시거든. 아니 가서 동해줘야 돼. 뭐 마시나? 동해 빵 소비를 말해. 아니 모시네 주변 동해 제발 드시 동해 뭐야 무시. 동해 가야지. 빵 주요 하고 띵종이 봐 하고 띵지도 인자네. 그리고 주지는 땡산에 동해니 교대만 용르당 대위 죄대 망르당 태송장 최기 의니수기 니룩디 모시에서 와있는 아니 와서 동해 유명한데 니룩디 마시니 먹네 아니 동해 죽대요.
So in order to get rid of our defilements, we have to begin by recognizing what our defilements are, identifying what our sufferings are. In regards to our suffering, you have the gross suffering, the suffering of change. And because they are all dependently related arisings, so knowing that they can be abandoned, recognizing that they can all be gotten rid of. So in having that recognition, in identifying defilements and suffering in this kind of dependent arising relationship, so then working towards lessening as much as possible all the causes and conditions for our suffering in life, because once you recognize what the delusions are, what are the causes of the suffering, then working towards lessening all those causes and conditions that bring forth the results of suffering, and then whatever are the causes of happiness, then making sure that one cultivates them, enhances them. So whatever suffering happens in our life, that happens more predominantly because we have failed to recognize what is the ultimate nature of existence, what is our ultimate reality.
동이 사람 뭐도 용내나 따뜻하게 제목인 사람 맞아 동이 만들어 대가랑 지 하지 동이 내가서 당아 지 유진다지는 로제 아니 조진다지다 지불로제 제진다지 지불로제 장기는 저 동이 내가서 당는다 동이 라야디 조 용량디 지다 자베 유수수 심기 시럽지 배주 당마시 아니 짐바능게 지찬 왜 뉴주데 가리면당 랑기 지양기 아니 로용을 하듯이 셔 대니리 그게 전부 지찬 동해베랑지나 대완지양 매장베랑지나 장만지양 아니지 메다베랑지나 딱반지양 대저 상물로 왔다지 다음에부터 딱도 집이 니주나니 데 동해 대저 그 동네기 차라 남장 시샤 그 차라 뭐지 내가 인정 텔레디니 할 레비지 뭐부지 들어와 내 송자는 가서 자위 동네 나야지 서로와 서로가 대화다 서로가 동네에서야 서로가 저야지 코이나 지 들이 저는 무슨 매매만 서로가 잠들이 되라 이나 연디 주니데 당지 머리바라니 랑기 진당데 그게 니주만이 되네 숙청 쉬어지 출대가지 차는 요가 성장 동의 빵는 동의지 쭉 매봐서요 동의기 그 대화 되나 대비 주대야 아니지 니값이 대화 타투기 대화 니값이 동의 타투기 동의 라야지 차라 한 대비 짜친부터 이땡서부터 요가 인자네 시시 남당 용수도 띵용이 니주만이 게 코나니디 또 마도 되다 동이 매번 지투야라디 코나니 또 마도나 라는 거다 테 코나니지 아니 시럽 짜침보 디게 에너지 인중 제와 있나 루바면 아니지 인중 가져다 피도 좀 아니 잔주쌤 잠바다 제벨로 라야 돼야 남주 추르 미기 잠바다 제벨로 세 추르 미기 동네 잠라 생각도 니지 제야서라도 저바 제야서라도 추르 미기 잠지 초그레와 잠지레마도 토다 주비 니지 인고요 말와 아니 심지 저야디 거를 러브르바이 생기 찡대야나니 콜바 저야디 간제스 코긴도와 아니 되게 띵니 심저야디 정신이 가르도 맞추기 아니지 동네다 대화라이 근조바데 코랑이 랑긴 네디 가래샤 안디 롱전이지 메디 가래 대야호지 띵중인가니 야호지 침바이나 아랑기 축도가 겐도 쳔모 제니지 대차 세당 띠무 낙셈 내셈 록다 차도라 소고디 찡비 차젠지 디 자와 머리비 차젠 인정 그래서 야호 뭐시 데니스 가져로 텐주르템 르덴 자진 디인가니 니가 텐주와 가래를 대디니 시샤지 지 시샤 용수도 시야라 다 치매와지리 로동다 뭐 토비나 시가 용수가 아니지 또 토비야 요 말인데 시시 니룩디 이지찌기 띵간 또 송아이나 최 탐지 니룩 대가라는 인자니 데니스 수지 동에 싸갖고 토비야지 단조지 물rum지 디기 띵네 셈바 디디니 수 자와치 토비야지당 수수기 자치모 토비야지 영그러워 단단하죠 이 류소를 된 동행당 셈소를 된 동행 류다 셈이 파텐 주된 이마 항지라 또 셈소기 동행디 아니 베드 답대 삽파당 자체가 요와 인정 근데 류소의 대화도 같이 좀 봐이나 친구고이 니도 같이 온다지 뭔가 리바지 자침보이 같이 거절라 가져라다 지 튼제 요와 있나 셈강 리비 띵네 아니 자침보 메나 아니 가야 편도 메다 내양지 나시 뭔가 리바지 자침보 전에 빼 미시 자침보 주고 아니지 가래 있는다 뭐라 나 지긴 티한테 여러 애나야 나사지 레용디 카보 담니 다 되는 동에 깨줘 jes네 신앙신 되고 자기도 태상말로 생각 리바디 뭔가 리바디 띵나 생각 리바지 여나 시럽 자침보 지요바이나 시샤근 랑지마도가 이마 하고 안 셈전 담지 출대와 하고 안 출바디 시야라 당진 짐바디 매바조고야 하고 안 닌제이나 톱첨부 시라비나 톱첨부 즈바이나 톱첨부 하인제나 수수기 짐베 자와디 시고 힌자 nga zoya di za chimbu jinde jimba de shigri nge laji khordam ji jan durju da ni jongju ji jimba ati ji ani tukju ji changde shigwa chungwaina an 동이 지 고야지 유면 시럽 din지 패주 있다고 있나 산이 송이게 되기나 와서 그새
Unfortunately lost. So when we talk about the suffering, you have, gross sufferings and, gross and subtle kinds of sufferings. So be it gross or subtle, suffering is something that we do not wish for. And it is something that that one can get rid of, can be extinguished. So whatever the suffering that arises, suffering comes due to our own mistaken perceptions that it gives rise to that. And so for that, then one has to generate the wisdom. One has to generate the wisdom, realizing the dependent rising, the ultimate nature of all phenomena. So you see, in our life, whatever mind states of bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion we have, although they are virtuous thoughts, but these mind states, without that ultimate wisdom, then it has its limitations. It's like whatever, even though our sense of love and compassion is there, it can be very biased. So to realizing the ultimate nature, the reality of the dependent arising, then that is the most essential. And when one understands that, then one understands what cyclic existence is about. What is the nature? What suffering nature is about. Knowing the conventional reality of what the conventional reality of the suffering, and the method to getting rid of that suffering through that wisdom realizing, and through that wisdom realizing the dependent arising, the suchness of the dependent arising. So one is able to know exactly how the mind states of our attachment, our anger, our jealousy, our sense of competitiveness, all these kind of one is able to recognize the mode of apprehension of these kind of delusional states of mind. And once one is able to realize that, then one is able to make good on the perfect human rebirth. Get the value of the perfect human rebirth. In terms of the perfect human rebirth, which is difficult to come across, are rare and highly meaningful. So like this, and so although in terms of the objects of knowledge, in terms of phenomena, it's like countless, numberless. But even if it takes 1,000 years of our lives, one has to have the knowledge of all this. But the shortcut to having that knowledge of all phenomena, the reality of all phenomena, is through knowing is through knowing the ultimate reality. Once one realizes the suchness of the dependent rising on the basis of one phenomenon, then that knowledge can be applied to all. Then that in that way, then you can say, one has the knowledge of all objects of, the ultimate knowledge of all objects of, all objects of knowledge, all phenomena. By realizing ultimate reality on the basis of one phenomenon, then one gains the insight to all phenomena. So you see, when experiencing suffering, we can have physical suffering and mental suffering. You have mental sufferings that are very kind of intricate, very profound, very deep or extensive. Then and also you have the physical suffering. Then of the two, what takes predominance is the mental suffering, because you see, in terms of the physical suffering, then you can say that you may have all the material comfort, you have all the material grandeur or material greatness, but when we but when we go through some sort of physical pain or ailment or disease, then we're just like anybody else, regardless of all our material achievements or material grandeur. In terms of going through, say, physical suffering, then in kind of wailing through the aches and pains of our physical suffering, then it's it makes no difference. So in terms of achieving material grandeur or mental grandeur, then achieving the mental grandeur is the greatness within the mind, the development within the mind. Then that's far greater, because in terms of whatever material grandeur we have, then in terms of experiencing the suffering, then whatever the outer material achievements that one has secured, it means nothing. So in cultivating the mental greatness, then those are within the scopes of all the practices of generating the infinite sense of loving kindness, compassion, tolerance, perseverance in virtue, and things like that. And most importantly, knowing the mode of apprehension of the ignorance, grasping at true existence, how this mind, engages itself in all the diverse ways of, securing for the self, undermining of the others, securing for our friends and loved ones, kind of harming what we identify as enemies and so forth. So like this, by knowing the mode of apprehension of this ignorance, grasping at true existence, understanding how it operates, how it engages, and in cultivating its antidote, that wisdom, this ultimate wisdom of realizing the suchness dependent rising. So next question is, could Khandrola please explain what is this?
The importance of the guru.
Importance of the Guru. Khandrola, Lama Nengat Suranas. Lama Nengat Suranas.
Lama nenga mumsuri. Sanji. Doika lama dingsu. Laika lama dingsu. Jini dingsu. Lamrin ben Mrs.
So the Buddha explained in the sutras the importance of the Guru. You know, like in the sutras it's explained, in the Lamrim, the graduate path to enlightenment. Also within that, there is you know what is known as the benefits of the Guru. That's already explained within that.
제나무서 지당기 달라만자 친구 맞대는 당분이 남바사가 인장 군주숨 나야지 뭐하고 레버트 줘야지 기준머리 군주숨 줘야지 가래리 간지스는 거는 참 양부열에 네 주군주 간지레샤 긴두군주 가래샤 아니 산지 군주 가래샤 뒤쪽 가래샤 뒤jen 가래샤 야보지 공부 예송이나 아니 장기 당신 말이 보다 태가지 내야 이만다 뒤 매버서 자야지 탑 쳐버진지 이래 되만다 아니 바람 진진줘야 돼 아니 그 자한이 매버서 탑이야 이만다 아니 이제 진진줘야 자친구 이만다 아니 랑다 제가 된제신지 탑 된바이나 한번이 군주선데 아니 지 군주선 가래샤 제가 때문에 지로당 아니 지 가르쳐준다지 때문에 지지 강다 근처에 나기도 아니 잠들어 지 잠들어 능 잠들어 코난인지 잠들어 오 군주순데 추군주 긴군주 산지 군주 해디 안되지는 네 맞아 가르친 제가 네 하고 지체서나 네네 아니 띵중지 대 코난인지 니수지가 아니 잠바다 제레노 아니 탑킬라 투지 준비기 니수지 영원 딩이 니수만이 얘네 군주순기 내당디 딕순 되잖아 아니 디히랑라 잡투비요바 젠투비요바 랑 잡사디 당지 말이빠다 덴지 니수만에 데니 잡단 데즈디 소소된 제바 이니수만 로바이나 빼야고 아니 디드니데니 라무 군주 저르치라야지 디코 마도 디마도 지 민즈고지다 아니 죽지 통보지다 녀라 침부지 인간이 수수기 다딩가 jamnyeri chena kale khawro sunan ju chuti sudo pinto mito
So
ani lama denjuda handa lamren pe misewe pesha mang zata na ngaso pe misi tachi modwa
so you know, for us now who are like, you know, being introduced into the Buddha Dharma newly, then to come into the recognition, come to appreciate the importance of the Guru, then for that one has to first come to recognize what the Buddha Dharma and Sangha is about, what the three rare sublime objects of refuge are about. You know, what is, how do they, how does these three rare sublime objects of refuge, you know, how does it protect me? How does it benefit me? You know, you have the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. You know, what are the you know, what are the causes for them? What does it result? How does it take effect in my life? So, in terms of, particularly in terms of, you know, extinguishing my ignorance, grasping at the self. You know, what are the special skillful means that the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, you know, effects for that, to get rid of my self-cherishing mind? How does it empower the precious state of, you know, the altruistic mind of cherishing others, this very precious mind state? So once one, you know, realizes these kind of connections through the Buddha, through these three objects of refuge, then one can come to see the reality, the importance of the Buddha. You have, in terms of the refuge of Buddha Sangha, you have the outer refuge, the inner refuge. the outer refuges, the general refuge, the inner refuge, then secret refuge like this you have. So once once one comes to recognize the connection with these three rare and sublime objects of refuge, and in connection with these three objects of refuge, that we have the occasion to give rise to that ultimate wisdom of suchness of dependent arising, the loving compassion, the thoughts of the loving the thoughts of the loving kindness, compassion, the special skillful means, and the great compassion that which is employed in order to grant me the refuge, grant me the protection from the ignorance grasping at the self, and the ignorance grasping at the true existence. So it is through that one can come to see the importance of the Lama, because it is through the Lama, through the Guru, that one is able to have that connection to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So in the long run, in the graduate path to enlightenment, then that is explained in great detail. So next question. How are you planning to develop Chandrabam? Will this be your primary center? Khandrola shuden jana sa Chandrabam yorwa. Dila Khandrola ki yake paina yake tulo gomba khande yunas. Di Khandrola ki chutso dewa the chagir ves.
Nejeda chutso ya kesha yo mari. Na fartorwa. Na tanta fartorwa. Fartor chamde senjedres.
It's not exactly a center. I myself am like an intermediate being. Wherever I am, that's my place of residence. Whoever I meet, those are my family.
This
entire world is my intermediate realm.
This coil chuni that Khandrola, that D company, down, that D Khadro, denser lava that did yes.
So, the real realm of our existence should be bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion of bodhicitta, and in the ultimate wisdom, the ultimate wisdom realizing suchness. So that should be the primary residence.
I think it's quite a long way. Goya good the line.
So that way I'm avoiding the actual answer. That should suffice as the answer to this question.
I think
Next time when I go to eat in all these different restaurants, you might ask me, is that your kitchen?
Yeah.
Next question. I think I wrote over your question, so could you give advice? The second question.
상관적으로 그관적으로 이제 같이 yes.
So I have a plan to make it like a place of practice, like a hermitage, place of kind of intensive practice. That's the tentative plan.
그런 단어 성자질라 아니베 대바다 이제 네 뒷들 거리 된다 인생은 산지 때문에 아니 생지 되지 이것은 저번 년대기 하는 그런 년대 내주만에 지 공급체에서 나오지 지게스 따고 때문에 계신 말이 산이 드림시로 하고는
The general plan is to utilize this place for the benefit of the Dharma in general and for the benefit of sentient beings. And there is one practice called Sawanganshin in the great secrecy of the pure views of one of the Dalai Lamas. And so to make that a place where this particular lineage can be practiced and meditated on. What is the
question was how Khandrola could be some advice for developing a sharp and clear mind when one doesn't have the opportunity to follow intensive study and debate.
sharp and clear? I mean, the Khadro-La that sini teni level of me yachimur chematuksa susuripati sevuta number juyo yachid kharichan yarayonas ripati sevuta number juyo yachid. Lobjun cheri sevuta number yora. Good lobjun cher call marana ani.
Oh, really, that love changing. 그거는 세우 너무 자체모 자녀당 양신은 저 자녀들이 이거도 와.
So
리바드 노타나 페이지 당무시나.
I was saying, like, I mean, you can have a really precious, really great, wonderful, and sharp and clear mind, but if you don't know how to use that mind, then that's also not too good.
Hello, Lomnichian, the missing kitchen book. Then as we make me want to mix it, Nigeria.
So, of course, to engage in studying and learning is very, very important because it's almost like, enabling a blind person to see, learning and studying.
In a level of Nichian, the round Tanzin de la Mativaina, in Khandrola,
So, but after all that learning and studying, if you're not able to rectify Indo-Western ignorance, then all that learning and studying can be quite frightening.
아니 당아저 지 너들은 세바정지 아니 지 다샤 셰당 세바미 리트즈디 랑라 있는 마지고 제나 있는 마지고서에 해송아 인자데 칼링칼링 용을 다야나 아니 지 세바 자침보 정보 실업 비주당 실업 가즈시 비주당 와이나 아니 셈디 자침보 셈디 가즈 자침보 차서 와이나 실업디 되는 거이니지 새로 차로
So, Gote Kason Khandla.
Simba Chungo. Go Chewa in Simba Duay.
This Shisa, Tish, most importantly is to have a good and kind heart, good and kind heart. And, free of the obsessive mind of attachment and, aggression of anger, free of that, but having a mindset that is good and kind-hearted, and a wisdom in which you you have a very broad-minded way of thinking, very like having a very expansive outlook, broad-minded way of thinking. So the more broad-minded you are, the more sort of extended your outward vision, then your wisdom increases naturally in that.
그래서 셈바 zambu 라야지 수인은 가기로와 참바 제와 이제 라야지 수저이나 가기로와.
So, you know, in being someone good and kind-hearted, then no matter who it may be, you know, people are very happy with that individual.
가 잠지 대용금인다. 대샤다 시당 티무 참 먼저 가기 말이야.
So, you know, people, nobody enjoys, you know, obsessed minds of attachment or the aggression of anger. Nobody's happy with that.
아니 만들바데 다 마가바데 다 같이 내니 마가나 용기래. 아니 그 주진디 대샤 시당 가리는 동네들 주진지 이러.
So, I mean, although, you know, although we are not happy with our obsessed minds of attachment or the aggression of although we are not happy with it, but, you know, we still experience those mind states. And then you have to examine, you know, what are the causes and conditions that, you know, that bring forth these kind of attitudes in me.
동네 주진디 남중 아주 따당라. 치료니 장장 예 코나마도 랑 이비스라서 말. 대송자네 동네 주진 주인데 소소이 고소니만데. 그런데 근주니 투가 인상 랑 주주 태송이나 아니 랑이 동네 랑신 주주 태라고.
So usually, you know, we have this tendency to blame everything on the outside, you know, as if oneself is not responsible for the state that one is in, you know. But once one is able to rectify that within one's own behavior and within one's own motivation or attitude, then, you know, these kind of mind states or suffering will naturally subside.
셈바 zambo이는 하나 신기 소소이 지당기 셈바 zambo 로당 시랍지 이니스르데 셈바 zambo 짜침부 진로알라 랑이 당진은 내야다 딘진은 내야지 거그래 시랍지 배주 마치바이나 랑게 셈바 zambo 같이 연나 젠지기 식루래 저바치도 말이 같이 저바치 아니 가족이 제와 있는 이미지 젠지기 So
when we have a good you know, this kind of altruistic mind of being very good and kind-hearted, and no matter how great that mind may be, it's still, you know, without the support of the wisdom, then it is subject to being undermined. You know, because, you know, no matter how good and kind-hearted we may be, because without the wisdom, we are still controlled by the grasping at true existence, the ego grasping ignorance. And so being subject to that, then no matter how good and kind-hearted we may be, then one day it will destroy it, because we are still controlled by these grasping states of mind, a true existence, self-grasping.
재상은 빼셨다고 그랬으면 되는지 땜바체만 땡슈체만 냠냠체만들데 땜는 요대바 내가 땜는 수수기 시야라 아니 긴긴 친다 땜바 라만 친다 땜바 땜지 신이 자지 뭐지 제네데 지 로존치과지 차대도.
So it is because of these reasons that the emphasis is made to engage in studying and learning, you know, to engage in the study and learning of the scriptures that are valid, that bring forth a valid experience, you know, relying on a guru who enables these kind, you know, who enables in us that kind of exposure and giving rise to that kind of experience within us.
맞아, 랑 진진단 당진 나야데 체코와 토마면이 공지 전부 충분히 되잖아요.
So, you know, self-cherishing, ego-grasping mind states. These are mental states that have been in us since beginningless lifetimes.
다음에도 시합 전에 따와 짜지 못해당 아니지 change 있으면 돼요. 맞아 공지되는데 답변 용문지 차로.
So whereas the wisdom realizing selfness is concerned, where bodhicitta is concerned, we are very unfamiliar in this area.
세상과 깔리고 된디스 차로가.
And because we are unfamiliar with it, we have difficulty.
대바데 대바는데
What we wish for is happiness.
저는데 동네는
But what we persevere for is for suffering.
나는 진지로 들어와.
So we are total opposites, total contradictions.
태송자인데 수수수 dom제는 개침버리는.
So therefore, for oneself to individually analyze one's own situation is important.
그래서 검자와 있는 럭종자와 있는 추위 럭종 검 냠내 퇴상 검은 즉 최종 가르치체와 있는 수수 랑 덴지는 내야지 최송와 있는 데니 수수기 자칭 실업 자칭 하고 데니 자칭 하고는 아니 장보라야지 아니 동의지 주제도 하고 되네 장보라야지 대도기 미술관이 아니 소소 대만 중심 진진 아니 당들나요 랑 진진 더야 내진이 미술관이 되네 지 자침보 정보유나 아니 장보 change 있으면 맞아 정보유 나 장보유 예수지랑 뇌지기매 아 제인산의 장보유에서 나와있나 네 맞지야 잔시 장보 정보차가 말와 안 그다 자치고 뭐지 수직은 네 맞지 되기도.
So whatever meditations we engage in, whatever study, hearing, reflection, meditation, all of these activities should act as an antidote to our ignorance, grasping at true existence, grasping at truly existent self. And so when one is able to effect in such a manner, then one can give rise to that extensive wisdom in oneself, and thereby generating that kind of goodness within oneself. And so, and through that, then one is able to, abandon the causes of the suffering, empower through that goodness, empower the causes for our happiness, and so empower the altruistic mind, cherishing others, able to abandon the mind that cherishes the self. And so when we say that I'm good and kind because I don't engage in activities harming others, that alone is not sufficient. There are many creatures, birds and beasts who don't harm others, and so that alone does not suffice oneself being oneself having achieved that kind of goodness.
너는 아주 미세지나 자와 가르치체와 있는 다지 드블라 동지에 배 계시머리 동네만 되와 인상 대만 되와 인상 자와 가르치체와 있는 제부 하트 제부데 타마델 제부 간지 용메델라 무수수기 동지에
So
나한테 계시머리는
So in short, we can say in our life, whatever activities we engage in, by those activities, you have to examine what result have I gotten? Have I gotten a suffering result, or have I gotten a result that which is happiness? So that you can analyze that for oneself.
So 주너 담년다 내가 라소바티스도 고유로
So, we want reputation, material achievement. We want that. We think of that as being precious and important.
이나양 텔레 이치에 자치고를 해서는
But is it something that we can entrust ourselves in? You know, are those things that we consider as important, precious? Is it something that we can totally entrust ourselves in? That is, that's not the case. Because it has limitations. Because they are all subject to change in the nature of suffering. So if we service our life only in the achievement of these, then we can say that our life is empty. But if we cannot do anything better than this, then of course, one has no other options. But you know that we can do better. The best wealth, the most beautiful thing, the most rich. What is that? That is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is something which is infallible, that we can totally entrust ourselves in. With this mindset, wherever we go, we can be assured of happiness. Even if you're by yourself alone, you'll be quite happy. Even if you met with your worst enemy, you'd still be very happy, because all you will experience is, and patience, tolerance, compassion, and so forth. Even if one were to die, one would die in happiness. So from lifetime to lifetime, what ensures well-being and happiness for oneself and others is this bodhicitta. So when we talk about bodhi, which is the bodhicitta, when we talk bodhicitta, the awakening mind, when we talk of that, it doesn't refer to a simple mindset of, of a good and kind heart. It's not just simply that. When we talk of bodhicitta, the awakening mindset, it is we're referring to an, unsurpassable knowledge, unsurpassable power, loving kindness, unsurpassable kind of capacity, it's like it's an unsurpassable refuge for the three times. So, this most precious view and this most precious conduct, these two precious view and conduct is something that one should take the greatest initiative, engage with the perseverance to cultivate oneself in this kind of the precious view and precious conduct, because these are the most priceless things in one's life. So whatever remaining life one has, left over, then to focus on this, developing loving kindness, compassion, seeking the welfare of others. And so in this way, sort of making the remainder of one's life meaningful. So making one's life, meaningful in this kind of way.
Hey, you be doing any song, Jeria? And the Lega Chawan, not so Join
So if you have this as your foundation, if you have this as your foundation, sustained by this way of thinking, then you can engage in whatever activities in life, such as doing business, whatever it is that you have to undertake in life, you can do so sustained by this. And so, and by that, there is no contradiction.
Lasso, didn't Chivayure, that Jason? Lasso, Chivayana, Chirana. Yeah.
So, I would like to thank you, from the depths of my heart, for all the advice and care. For Lama Zopa Rinpoche's long life, and particularly for the long life prayer, which was composed for Rinpoche's long life. And I would like to request if you could give us the translation for that prayer.
Khandrola, and Habadur Khandrola Rinpoche Shabden Soderji Tonamdi Chetu Tuchana Shuyas and Khandrola Di Jalun Chinaronas.
Nice. 우리 땅이랑 같이 먹어. 나는 대비서 버리시니 나는 뒤가블라 땅이랑 봐. 야토 마선 나는 뒤가블라 쓰는 수수기 대파 이지 미규 거는 강 쓰는 테마데마 제자주들이
So this particular long life, I composed it at a time when a long life preacher was being offered to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and I couldn't attend it. Since I couldn't attend, then this prayer arose out of my faith, devotion, and aspirations.
member Selva Numo jet jidon ningu to Chubun jet jidon lossi rip Tinju Mari Tini Yulije Tinje Doji Chanji Jochu Tuvi Temba Londo Senzenin Temba Macha Chapsel Zambulin Zebi Katru Jasi Unjuni para Tinju Tramu Juto Jinji Num Changin Tondrje Podi Changi Kunjung Bukchunzu Chechu Toni Ninji Ten Rangchu Senzi Kifu Anamjin Sendin Shin Lam Shatenson Tuzun Jijo Pama Dramayi Tenzin Kifu Kutse Zijin Bell 리제 칠리 춘주 뒤그림종 리메 짝순 라이 짜시쇼 라서
Anyone has any desperate questions?
라서 투지체 사카노 짜시데레 저부제 용 투지체
To everybody and hope to see you soon.
저
But do you have your own?
So you recently went to Sri Lanka? Yeah.
Shall we?
You got that? And
Sri
so I
Lanka.
just wanted to see if you enjoyed your time.
좀
And
좋았으면서 스리랑카 때.
중성 집어 중성 시리랑가 믹스지 아니 오늘 전에 네 자치고 아니 용자스 인반자 아니
It's a
남바
very sacred place. Sri Lanka.
남바기 아니 자각지 제자 아니
It's a Buddhist country,
아니 메트스데 대바다 이지 할레원도
and people have amazing faith and belief in the Buddha Dharma and Sangha.
아니 내 메시지와 중성
And I had a great time.
you taught at my friend's house, like this, Mr. Chinta's house. You
한라 추수스 사치 데 크랑게 톡분이
레레레 라서
so he's asking me if you want to come back and also to teach at the big stupas.
크랑게 한라 양파 피그레레스 인데스 키치티기
레레
아니 주말 추나르시는 최대 친구였을 때야 아니 디나르나
야야 인다
The Buddha relics, we have got permission from the monks.
그나스 피게 슈니 긴드르 그나스 나와나소스 한라
To lead
이게
pilgrimage and to give teaching from the stupa.
내고를 배야다 아니 피게 최대였어 나가라네 같이 나야 나와 촌순
배야고도 아니 인들도 빼면서 야고 아니 강다를 내마한테서 빼면서 아니 대박 전부 대박이 그 대로 야지 나요 좋아.
So the monks of the Sangha, they were like wonderful. The general people had incredible faith and devotion. So of course there's always room for more further development.
아주 줄을 때네 아니 이제 몽디 대바디 몽디 조금은 좋아이나 아니 다지 그 야진로야 지도 아니 랑기 유세 야진로야 갈래가고 되니 젠티는 되니 정말 좋아라는
So if we have what is called a blind faith, then if we only travel on that kind of blind faith, again, it can undermine. It can be a sort of drawback to the development.
띵중이 대권은 이송이지 아니 잡 탐바 도지창 디기 달로 니동 공라 아니 배 가지고다 잠블링 디나라 다 세리 키슈 세리 남았다고 키슈 약슈지 아니 자기도 왔어.
So when we look at the explanation of the ultimate reality of dependent rising as taught by the Buddha Vajradhara, in that scope of, through that insight, then you can say the Buddha was the greatest scientist, the greatest, person who held that theory, in the best of the theories.
땡중이 대권은 이니스는 되니 잔죽이 있습니다. 참마다 제와도 잡아라야지 80도 돼. 한 자신보 이마지네 하고 고안지 차로 좋았어.
With that wisdom of that suchness of dependent rising, when applied to loving kindness, compassion, all of the six perfections, then has great relevance.
딩어서 잠블링 디나나 동행이 다지 싸마 매버서는데 아니 딩중이 대권은 인자네 셔켈레나 말레나 아 맥근은 대코 샘진 근은 다디 약슈지 잡아야랬어. 아니 잠블링 시디 중요하지. 탑 약슈디 디시에샤들이스.
So, to get rid of the roots of suffering, it's only through that reality of the dependent rising. So regardless of whether you follow a religion or not, or whether you follow a spiritual path or not, in terms of getting rid of suffering, that it's only through that realization of that suchness of dependent rising that one can achieve the happiness that one wishes for, and to extinguish the suffering that one does not want. And that applies to everyone, regardless of whether they accept a religion or not. It's the only way out.
그래서 따와 친지 말로 와도 쬐바 친지 말로 와지. 아니 배전체는 점링 시대 탑람 약슈 좀제 약슈도 되죠.
So, to have an unmistaken viewpoint, to have an unmistaken conduct. This is the best method of wisdom for our world. This is the best means to the peace and happiness of the world.
그래서 되니 코나발라 다시 텔레스 주르치 아니 정말 양자 유비.
So please convey to them my tashidele, and that I will visit them again.
되니 무튼이 돈이 인들지 아니 가서 가져로마다 돌린치야다 된지지 고급상부 따지고데 포지치에서 아니 정말 제용 가지체.
So it was very have this kind of dialogue about compassion and emptiness, to be able to discuss about that, and thank you for this opportunity, and hope we can meet again and do so likewise.
我在学会听就学会路让人让人去你将我你在眼前的美丽我已Everybody wants to
Why don't you announce?